look at down.
We're really grateful to all of our Canyon City residents and folks that have come out to address City Council. We really do appreciate having you here. One of you said we may regret having a full house, but I never regret it. It's important that you feel comfortable coming and having your voice heard, and I want you to know that we're here to listen. With that said, I realize that probably almost every single person in this room is here to talk about the Park Center water. Now, you're not officially on our agenda tonight. However, we do have open, the first 15 minutes is open to public comment for anyone who wants to speak to City Council. And so we have this first 15 minutes available for you, and then we'll have to move on to our regular agenda. And we might have a few minutes to have some questions and answers relayed. And so I'd suggest, because of the size of this group, you may want to limit the speakers for this time to a few that will represent you. I have a feeling that all of you have similar, if almost the same story to tell. I know, Andrea Stein, that you are the leader of this group, and so we would probably go ahead and invite you to come and start out the forum, and we'll go from there.
I do have a statement prepared.
Okay, and can you please talk into the microphone?
Okay. Do I need to come forward? It's red, green. See that? Is that light?
There we go.
Should be on. Okay. I do have a statement, and it takes about 5 minutes to read. So we had applied for the 3-minute, and my husband can read his 3 minutes if you like, or I can read the whole thing. And I have sent it to all the council members, so you have it to read too. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I have received it.
Yeah.
And so, so if you're okay with Andrea taking her 5 minutes and her husband going to 3, and
No, well, he won't need 3 because it just takes 5
Okay.
to read this.
all right, and then we'll go from
Yeah,
there. Thank
okay.
you, Andrea.
All right. First of all, we of the Canyon City Water Coalition would like to thank council members and Mayor Preston Troutman for allowing us a few minutes to read our petition, and I understand Ashley is Mayor Pro Tem this evening. We represent a neighborhood at the northwest corner of Canyon City, which would like the city of Canyon City to supply us with city water services, since we are all city residents paying city taxes as well as stormwater maintenance fees. Of approximately 225 homes in this area served by Park Center Water, we have contacted, and when I wrote this it was 60, but after this afternoon it's 67 addresses who have been having severe plumbing, appliance, and drinking water problems due to the caustic nature of Park Center Water. We hereby request an answer in writing from Canyon City by September 30th, 2018, including an outline of what process we must follow to access Canyon City water, or if the city refuses to supply us with water, we would like the reasons in writing by September 30th, so we may proceed with whatever we have to do to obtain safe water. Since Canyon City already supplies water to homes that are not in the city, we find it hard to understand what reason the city would have not to provide water to its own residents. The only law I've been able to find on my own that might doom all of us to remain on Park Center water is one from 1926, where cities were not allowed to poach water users from rural water associations. I don't think that we belong to a rural area anymore, since we are in the city. And this is 2018. We are not rural residents. We're Canyon City residents. We owe nothing to a small water supplier that is destroying our homes to the tune of thousands of dollars each. And it's about $200,000 now, spread over 67 homes surveyed. At the current rate, our property values could tank when more people move to Canyon City and learn about the water situation. Many of the homes' infrastructures in this area have been literally destroyed by plumbing problems. The corrosive action eats through copper pipes, causing copper to leach into drinking water and making it undrinkable. We have learned this is the same problem which is plaguing the residents of Flint, Michigan. Once residents in our neighborhood finally invest in a great amount of money to replumb their entire house, then walls also have to be repaired from many leaks suffered in the process of total implosion of the plumbing. Sometimes roof, floors, and ceilings throughout the house are involved as well. This caustic water also destroys appliances such as hot water heaters, washers, dishwashers, refrigerators, boilers, and swamp coolers. One plumbing contractor reported installing 10 times as many hot water heaters each year in our neighborhood as in the homes in Canyon City on city water. Drive through our neighborhood on any given day and you will see trucks of plumbing contractors from Canyon City, Pueblo, and Colorado Springs. Now we've received a letter, the second since we bought our house a year and a half ago, that in addition to other problems, there is a toxin called trihalomethanes, which can be a dangerous toxin if you are very young or very old. Well, that's probably a lot of us. And so, how many people are buying drinking water? Thank you. Okay. In the first 3 months after we moved into our home, we had to pay in excess of $7,000 for repairs and replumbing. And that does not include individual water disasters leading up to the final replumb. And this is not the first time we have brought this situation to the attention of the city. And yes, we have contacted and sat down with Park Center water representatives. They maintain there is nothing wrong with their water. We were told it is equal to or better than Canyon City water, and it does pass all EPA requirements. We will await your answer to our petition before we take any further action. Thank you so much for listening.
Andrea, before you go, I do have some questions for you. I'm sorry, there's no applause. There's no applause in City Council. This is a place for comfort zone for everybody to speak their mind. And so I would ask that you please refrain from applauding, but I do want to be able to hear and listen to your message. And I do have a couple of questions. When you say for your petition and wanting to leave Park Center Water, are you petitioning for the entire service to be taken onto Canyon City's water, or for just Canyon City residents themselves?
We're representing Canyon City residents, although I get pleas from people in the county all the time. I have a separate database for them. But I feel as though we are city residents and we should be on city water. The people in the county, frankly, could start their own water association somehow if they wanted. There are areas that have done that. But as for us, we're city residents and we're trying to just focus on getting city water.
And my next question is, when you sat down with PCWD and you had your conversations with them, did any of those conversations entail what would be required for you to be able to leave their service?
They did not give us any specifics.
Okay, are there any questions from council members? Councilmember Meisner.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to say that it was implied. Just keep in mind that each Canyon City resident that's on the Canyon City water system pays a separate water fee. And that water enterprise fund is completely separate from the rest of the city budget. So that fund has to take care of all the water expenses and incomes and is completely separate. So when we talk about water, we need to recognize that we have the city government and we also have the water fund, and those are two independent budgets and operations and have to be the way that they're set up. So I just want to clarify, even though you're city residents, you are not paying any city water fees. And that's what's...
Why not?
Okay, please let Councilman Meisner make his point, that's a clarification.
And I'm just trying to clarify that even though you're city residents and you pay a number of potential city fees and taxes, you're not paying any specific water fees that are relative to the operation of the Water Enterprise Fund.
Okay. And why not?
Please
Why
let- please
are
let
we
us-
not? Why are we not?
Because you're not part of the system.
We're not part of the city?
You're not part of the water.
Why are we part of the system?
Okay, we will answer that question. Please let us get to that. So,
Please.
You're not paying a fee for water because you're not connected to the water.
And the runoff and all the taxes.
please, order in the council
Sir, would you
chambers.
please pay attention? Don't interrupt again, sir.
So, let me clarify. The service that's given to Canyon City for water is a separate enterprise fund. It's ran like an independent business. And so by law, the only money that can go into the water fund is money that is collected from customers that receive water. And the only money that's spent in that water fund only goes to those customers. So we're not saying that you're discounted as city residents. We're just saying, as a technicality, none of your taxpayer money goes into the water fund. It is completely independent as a water business. Does that make a little more sense?
Please, you have to quiet down.
We can
moment.
have more conversations and we can have more discussion.
But we need to get through this, please.
Miss,
We are here because we want to pay those fees. We want to be part of the water system. So it's not like we're saying, well, we're paying for water and we're not getting
Okay.
it. We're just saying we want to be part of your system.
I just wanted
Mayor
to
Pro
start
Tem,
with that
Can I
clarification.
interrupt you with something here, okay? Way back when I was on city council, way back, this came up the same way with regards to Park Center Water District, okay? We, at that time, looked at the situation that was there. We went back to the people who came to us, and we told them, the only way at that time that we could look at what they was requesting was the fact that everybody involved in it had to go over with it. We couldn't take, and I'm just using numbers, say there's 400 households, and only 200 wanted to go in. There's no way we were going to be able to do 200. It was either, at that time, all or none, okay? And so that, at that time, killed that issue back then. So this is one of those things that we can look at to progress from that point on. If that same situation should come about, if we're able to look at it and we have the same situation, we may be in the same problem because, okay, say this block wants our water, this block doesn't. You can see the complications that it creates. Like I say, we dealt with this twice in the past. This is the third time.
Right.
Maybe now that it's the third time, we can look at something that can be feasible to work at. But that was the solution back then, and I don't know what the solution now is going to be. But we tried it twice.
So,
Mrs. Stein,
Councilman-
I have a question.
go ahead.
Yes.
In regards to the letter regarding I believe you said it was a trimethylchloride, was that correct?
Yes?
When you asked Park Center Water's representatives about that presence in the water, what was their response to you?
I make my coffee in it. That was their response. The letter says that it's only dangerous if you're old, very old, or very young. If you
So-
look at us, we're all very old. But that was the official response when I called in was, I make my coffee with it.
So we can have some, we already have reached our 15 minutes. Council, because are we okay giving another couple of minutes on this subject? And then we'll need to move on to our agenda.
I'm fine
Is
with it.
there somebody else that would like to come forward?
Let's give, we have a couple hands up. We'll give you each 1 minute, and then we'll move on with some comments. And obviously, there'll need to be some future discussions. It's not going to
Yeah.
be solved tonight.
Right.
So we'll take these two for 1 minute each.
I'm on Autumn Court. I have
Okay, can I
actually-
please get your name?
Christina Fisher. I live on Autumn Court. I just have a couple opinions of myself and information that I know is correct. In the letter, it says for extended use of that water, it can cause cancer, it can cause diseases because of that chemical that's in it. And then also, how is Dawson's Ranch having city water but not North Fifth Street? That don't make sense to me.
So I do have the answer for that. Dawson, the developers of Dawson Ranch, when they built that neighborhood, they put in all of the pipes and they put in all of the infrastructure to hook up to Canyon City Water. We also provide water to other entities besides Canyon City.
But the pipes are right up by our streets for city water. It's like on the, right across the street from most of our houses is the city water access.
Madam Mayor, I'm going to compare it to buying a used vehicle. When you buy a used vehicle, you assume all liability and repair for that vehicle.
Okay, but we all want to help to figure out how to pay to receive that city
So,
water.
and we can have that, we will have that conversation. Okay, next, please.
Richard Davis. I live on Pennsylvania Avenue. I understand that it's out of the district, but I've replaced 3 hot water heaters in 2 years, a dishwasher, pipes, countless other things. And 90% of it is all due to the water. I have a 7-year-old granddaughter that can't drink the water because we're concerned about her health and so on and so forth. 2 or 3 years ago, they offered up for us to, a petition went around our neighborhood, a mail-in petition that said if we wanted to jump onto Canyon City City Water or stay on Park Center Water. What happened to that? The only thing that happened was we stayed on Park Center Water. 90% of everybody that I know out there wants city water. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. I do have a written request to speak to council about the Park Center water from Joe Ran. Joe Ran, if you'd like to speak, we'll give you a minute as well.
Thank you. I had something written, and some of it's been touched on already, and but I'll get as far as I can in a minute. Through the years, many Park Center water users have gathered and complained about the quality and corrosiveness of the water. We've reached, I don't know if you're realizing how serious this is. Besides the problems with our finances, most of us are retired and we're living on fixed incomes. We've had people moving because they can't afford any more damage to their homes. This is not the same rodeo we were at 2 other times or how many other times it's been. This is serious. We have replaced all the pipes in our house. We've replaced 3 boiler motors. We've replaced a dishwasher, 3 hot water heaters. You can poll this entire crowd, and they'll give you approximately the same story. We're not coming here and begging you. We're just trying to convince you of how serious it is.
Thank you, Joe. I want to say that what I've heard is that this is a very serious matter. I hear that you're concerned about the water quality and the danger that it poses, that you want to be on Canyon City Water, and that you're not being heard or getting answers from Park Center Water. I would like to suggest that we facilitate a meeting with Park Center City Water where you can have those conversations. I do want you to realize that based on legalities, laws that have been confirmed in courts, and please correct me if I say anything that's not true or right, because I want to make sure I'm conveying this accurately, but based on laws that we have to work under and through and with, we have to, number one, when if we facilitate this meeting for you to have these conversations, your anger and your angst needs to be with Parks Center Water District. And because of the laws, you have to work out an agreement with Parks Center Water District to be able to leave their services. An agreement has to be made for that to happen, and it would probably require some money. I know you don't like that answer, but it's based on fact. Number two, to get onto Canyon City Water, which, by the way, I want you to be Canyon City Water customers. I think we would love to have you on our Canyon City Water and provide you our excellent services. But the second part of that is doing more research on what it would take for you to actually become connected onto that Canyon City Water. Because of the increased demand on the services, that means that we have to increase some infrastructure to have more pipes, also make sure we have the storage tank capacity to provide you good service. Will all need to be considered, and some engineering probably to be researched. And I don't know what the cost is for any of those. I've heard some wild numbers that it could be in the 6 to 7 figures. But let's keep having these conversations. I would suggest that, Andrea, can you organize some representatives from your coalition to be a part of that? And let's see what we can do to make this happen, to make your voices heard and get some answers for you and some cold hard facts. And realize that we have to operate within the laws that are set. Do you have anything else to add to that, Attorney Corey?
Just one thing to clarify, based on what Councilmember Jaquez said from historically, if the entire district were hypothetically to come into Canyon City, that's what's known as the dissolution of a district, getting rid of it altogether. If only the city residents were to get out of the district, those residents would have to exclude from the existing district. The issue that the Mayor Pro Tem was talking about related to cost is if the district today has financial obligations, if the entire district is dissolved, those obligations have to be resolved. I don't know if there's a mill levy where you pay debt that was incurred from several years ago. Those issues have to be resolved. If it is only city residents, the folks that exclude have to make an agreement with the district as to their proportionate share of those financial obligations. So when the Mayor Pro Tem is talking about the cost, those are the costs just to get out of the district before you even discuss the cost of connecting to the city. So it is a long and complicated process. It's not an issue of whether you are able to as a matter of law, it's whether it can be done as a matter of cost for you all.
Okay, so one more comment, and we need to move on with our evening. Go ahead.
Mayor Pro Tem, I would like to just address the residents here. I myself am a Park Center Water customer. And so despite what it may seem with the legal that you're hearing and the explanation of past occurrences, we are hearing you. This is something that does probably require attention, and I think that this council will give it attention, but it's not as simple as, unhooking one garden hose and hooking up another. It's a lengthy process. And if you guys are patient and working with us, I think that this council will do everything they can to help aid the problem.
Thank you. All right, so Andrea, can you, we'll have city staff get a hold of you, and if you can organize the representatives that you want for your coalition, let's see what we can get done on behalf of you and all of the Canyon City residents that are on Park Center Water. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I want you to know that we do hear you. We are concerned for you. We are your representatives, and we want to do what's best for all Canyon City residents. And with that, we're going to go ahead and officially start our city council meeting for tonight. So Go ahead and call to order.
The meeting of May 21st, 2018 is called to order. The roll call, Councilmember Dorito,
Here.
Councilmember Gonzalez, Councilmember Hamrick.
Here.
Councilmember Jaquez. Councilmember Meisner.
Here.
Councilmember Smith.
Here.
Councilmember Turner.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem, or Mayor Troutman is absent.
Do we have our, anyone here for the invocation? Okay.
Then I tried to check it out.
We can facilitate that with our meeting. We will arrange that with our meeting with Andrea. Thank you. We have an interest. We will have that discussion with city council members. Thank you very much for your suggestion. We will work through Andrea, if that's all right. So thank you. We're going to go ahead and have the Pledge of Allegiance, if y'all can arise. Are there any citizens request to speak to council? Rhonda Sherrata?
Rhonda's back.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me just a moment. Rhonda Sherrata, 94 Eagle Drive South. And my first issue is regarding email responses from City Council. And I'm here to ask that, I'm going to give you an example. I send emails to our state constituents and representatives at the state level of our Congress. And when I email them, I receive back a automatic reply that says, thank you so much for your email. We appreciate your attention or whatever it is on the issue. Someone will get back to you in a timely manner. We appreciate all your comments, something like that. And what I'm here to ask is that there is some sort of a email response. I know it's hard to hear. I apologize. I can't even hear myself.
Jolene, could you close the doors, please? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm asking for some sort of an email response to come from city council members to let citizens know that they have received an email and it didn't end up going to junk. We had an issue at the beginning of the year where our normal coalition was sending emails to all of to city council. And there was no responses coming back that anyone received anything. And when I finally asked councilperson Gonzalez, was she receiving the emails, and Mr. O'Rourke, they were going to junk mail, inadvertently or because of the firewall or whatever it is that the city has in place. So my request is if the council would consider an automatic reply that just initially says, thank you so much for your email, we'll direct it to the right place, and someone will get back to you in a timely manner. It would be appreciated just so we know that it's not going to junk or spam, that there's actually some correspondence going on there. And then you don't have to even respond, it's just a request if you would consider talking about it. And then my second issue I think might be answered, and it was the Canyon City Energy future, our coalition regarding Black Hills. We just wanted an update to see where council members were at with our attorneys in the discussion of the franchise agreement. But I do see that we have a couple people being appointed to the team, if you will. So I think maybe you'll get to that and answer my question during that part of where we're at with that. Am I assuming correctly?
Yes, we will. And Corey, have we heard back from Black Hills yet? Because right now it's in their court. Is that right?
Not to my knowledge.
Oh, okay.
No
So-
response yet.
So we have not had a response yet from
Okay.
Black Hills, but we are appointing some council members tonight. We also had a city-county meeting recently where county officials are also concerned about the Black Hills service concerns, and they too would, if you want to, maybe reach out and find opportunities to address the PUC, that we would join you, both city council members and some county commissioners as well, and would join you in Denver if you would like to do that to address the PUC.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for the update. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rhonda. Okay, now it's time for our recognitions and proclamations. Are there council announcements?
Sure. We have a vision meeting?
Yes, there's a vision meeting this Wednesday.
You have a vision meeting. Wednesday, 4 o'clock here.
Caitlin?
I would just like to tell everyone that several members of City Council last Monday took a trip out to Buena Vista and Salida to talk with their community leaders and see what things they've done to encourage growth in their downtown. And I know I myself found that trip very valuable. And, you know, I suppose the other members of council did as well, I hope.
Absolutely.
And I'd just add on to that, the one thing that we learned lots of interesting things, but one of the most interesting things we heard is we brought up the subject of, well, gee, we always hear down here in Canyon City how well they're doing things better, you know, doing things better up there. They said, well, we hear the same thing about Canyon City.
That's
So
true.
it's kind of the grass is greener, perhaps.
That's true. They said, we say that everyone drives up to Salida, and Salida says everyone drives down to Canyon City.
Two short announcements. Over the weekend, we had the flashback on Main, which despite the weather was not extremely, it was not the weather you'd hope for, I would just say, leave it at that. But it had a really nice turnout. There was ages, young and old alike. And the Friday preceding that, in the 200 block, 200 to 300 block, there was kind of an impromptu, a bunch of the cars, the hot rodders came down, some of the hill climb people, our new business, Bikes and Brews, had a band out there. And there was, I would guess, several hundred citizens walking around, looking at cars, listening to music, and it was an extremely enlightening thing to see on downtown Canyon City. It was great to see.
It was awesome. And the car show itself was incredibly attended. My favorite part of Flashback on Main was when the high school band played with them. I thought it was amazing. So we want to thank all those who were involved in Flashback on Main. Any other announcements? All right, now we are ready for our proclamations. I would like to invite Council Member Frank Jaquez to give those proclamations tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. The reason why I asked to be able to do this is because, you know, I had connections with both of these individuals with regards to city council and everything else. The first proclamation I'm going to do is in commemoration of Phyllis Ann Johnson, April 1st, 1932 to April 30th, 2018. The city of Canyon City, Colorado does hereby extend sincere condolences to the family of Phyllis Ann Johnson, the wife of former Mayor Benny Johnson. Phyllis was a strong community leader in her own right, serving as administrative assistant to various principals at the Canyon City High School and at the Abbott at the Holy Cross Abbey. Students over the years turned to Phyllis as confidant and friend, often going back to school just to say hello. On behalf of the citizens of Canyon City, we wish the family well and extended our heartfelt sympathy upon passing of a great woman. And if any of you out there in the studio audience ever remember seeing a little yellow Vespa going down the highway with somebody hanging on to the back, well, that was Benny and that was Phyllis. They went everywhere together. They were inseparable people. And when Benny was there, we also had the privilege of having the next gentleman on the next resolution. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Canyon City, Colorado, commemorating the life of former council member and Mayor William F. Bill Jackson, 1927 to 2018. Whereas Bill Jackson was born May 27, 1927 in Los Angeles, California, and raised in the San Luis Valley. And whereas Bill Jackson served in the U.S. Army from 1944 to 1948, working on missile deployment. And whereas after graduating from the University of Colorado Boulder, Bill married his first wife, Shirley, and moved to Canyon City in 1952. Whereas Bill worked for Southern Colorado Power Company, serving as the local customer service manager until retiring in 1993. And whereas Bill and his second wife, Janet, ran Jackson Tree Nursery, where he became a master gardener, specializing in the cultivation of roses. And whereas Bill, an avid fisherman with the love of the water, was very active in local water management through services on the boards of the Hydraulic Ditch Company and the Upper Arkansas Area Council of Government. And whereas Bill believed in active participation in community and civic affairs, serving as an elected member of the City Council from 1994 to 2002. Whereas Bill was elected as mayor of the City of Canyon City in 2003, serving the city for 2 terms from 2004 to 2007. Now therefore be resolved that the City Council of the City of Canyon City does hereby commemorate the life of William F. Jackson and honor him for the dedication to the community. And Bill was there when Benny was there. You know, they was like inseparable friends. We got together. These 2 gentlemen brought about, in fact, made me want to be more interested in City Council, and there's where I came in. And I feel like I followed in the footsteps of 2 great people. I don't know if I've done as good a job as the 2 that I followed into, but these are 2 great people and everything else, and they will well be missed. And like Phyllis on the motorcycle with Benny, there's a lot of people in this town that have trees and plants and everything in their household. So part of them, lives on forever. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Jaquez. We do appreciate and honor the memory of both Bill Jackson and Phyllis Ann Johnson. We're so grateful to them. Can I please get a motion to adopt the resolution for Bill Jackson? Frank, would you like to?
Yes, I make a council member to adopt the resolution for Bill Jackson, our former mayor.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Dorito.
Aye.
Councilmember Gonzalez is absent. Councilmember Hamrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez.
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Turner.
Aye.
Mayor Troutman's absent. I want to mark that. Thank you.
All right, it's now for the adoption of the agenda and consent agenda. Can we have an administrator review?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. 8A would be to recommend appointment of 2 council members to serve on the Black Hills negotiating team. Council members John Hamrick and Caitlin Turner have expressed strong interest in serving in that capacity, so we'd recommend that. 8B would authorize the city administrator to execute an agreement with Jerry Staley, our great city clerk, to serve through July 31st with the option of extending that, depending on how we're proceeding with our recruitment and training for a permanent city clerk. But we've certainly appreciated her great service and support over these last several months. 8C would be awarding of a professional service agreement to Rockwell Rexel for water treatment plant, a new computer system, in amount not to exceed $19,944.37. 8D would be awarding of a contract to Architectural Services. This would be both for construction documents and structural design documents related to the Red House, to Source Architectural Technology Systems, PC. This would be for, the city's portion of this is $7,500 out of a $29,700 budget. The balance is being paid by the state, which we appreciate. 8E would be award bid 36-18 for paving at the Centennial Park parking lot, the west lot there, and Colburn Lane, which is the new entry point to the South Canyon Trails, to pavement maintenance services of Slida in amount not to exceed $75,494.10, We're thrilled that there were 5 bidders for this project. We hope that's an indication that our future projects, especially our 2A projects, will generate that kind of competition and enthusiasm from our local contractors. 8F would be award bid 41-18 mobile data collector for the water distribution system to Finish Line Systems, the amount of $8,333. You know, we have 4 data collection systems to pick up the radio signals from our meter readers. There's some holes in that collection process. This mobile system will help alleviate that. We're probably looking down the road, we'll need to probably purchase 1, if not 2, fixed systems to complete the validity and the veracity of that system, so we'll keep you posted on that, but this certainly will help in the near future. 8G would be approval of street closure on College Avenue between 12th and 13th on June 2nd for the Fremont County Safety Jam. That will be from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Also, 8H would be approval of street closure for North 12th Street from Forest to College Avenues on July 6th, 7th, and 8th, and that would be for the annual Canyon City Swim Meet, and that's an all-day affair. And there will be some related camping across the street at the high school. 8I would be authorization to execute a crossing improvement agreement with Union Pacific as it relates to South 11th Street. The city's proportion of this would be 50% or $35,942, and the work will probably commence in October. And then Jay is just receiving and filing of our listing of bills. Any questions on any of those consent items?
Councilmember Meisner?
It's probably more for Bob, but
Okay.
on item 8C, under services 1.3.1.2, it talks about no documentation will be provided. But later on, it mentions that there's going to be some documentation provided in a digital format. On C5, enlighten me at least in that part.
The first one that you referenced, there'd be no documentation regarding the work they're doing because it's basically just putting the existing software on new computers. So no real changes that need documented there. And then the second one that you referenced, the electronic, is the just an update in the mapping and addressing of the communication portion of the system.
C2 mentions training.
Yes.
You have that memorized? I'm trying to find it here. C2 stipulates, says extended warranties, training, and additional engineering support and other services are available on request and are not included in this proposal.
Correct.
And again, is that because all they're doing is installing the third-party software?
Yeah, they're installing their proprietary software on new computers.
When you say their, is that their software?
Yes, the Rockwell software.
But if it's their software, why wouldn't they be providing us with training?
Well, the training that they're referring to, it would be how to use the system. We didn't request any of that.
So this is
And
really
how to make enhancements to it if we needed to add addressing tags or add a new screen to the HMI system.
And then C34 mentions that travel is not included, but I thought I had read earlier where that the initial one-day visit,
It's all based upon a fixed lump sum of that 19,000, so.
they're talking about additional travel?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
you bet. Any other questions?
I do have a question.
Councilman
Go ahead,
Hamrick?
John. Excuse me. On these two items, with Rockwell and the mobile data collectors, and maybe this is a question for you, Tony, were those budgeted funds? Did we budget for this?
Yeah.
Or is this all
budgeted.
covered within the budget?
Yes.
Thank you.
And are you considering the railroad crossings?
No, just the two water related.
Two water
Okay.
related, yeah.
Okay, Meisner.
Another question on the mobile data, which you've kind of answered, but just publicly.
Yes, sir.
And you alluded to that we're anticipating, what, in 19 and 20? I'd asked Bob, what was the priority for getting these additional data, fixed data collectors?
Yeah, initially, we wanted to see, again, when we did the original propagation study for the, Neptune was recommending anywhere from 5 to 7 units to get like 99% coverage. And to date, we have 4 data collectors in place, and we're only lacking about picking up about 1,000 reads. And so trying to weigh the benefits of purchasing and installing another fixed data collector as opposed to using this mobile unit made a little bit more sense economically.
If it's successful, we hopefully won't have to purchase the fixed systems because the mobile system's half the cost, but, you know, we'll know probably within 6 months.
Yeah.
Any other comments from council or questions? I do have a couple of comments. On the bid for the parking lot at the
Yes.
Park and Colbert Lane, when is that work going to be done?
Adam is here.
In a couple of weeks? When is the pavilion going to be here?
That's, we should get delivery on that probably the middle, latter part of June with full installation by early July.
Isn't that a delay from what we originally anticipated?
Yeah, delay from our expectations, but the manufacturer just has been so busy, as you could expect. This is a very high demand time to install pavilions come summertime, so that's the reason for the delay. There's other people in front of us.
And is there grass coming into the park soon?
Yes, both sod and seeded.
Madam Mayor.
Meisner?
On item E, is it possible that we could add a very small note that would identify that those are not 2A dollars working there?
Sure. Yes,
That
you're
just-
right. They're
and
general
as
fund
we move
dollars.
with road dollars,
Yeah.
I think it's always advantageous for us to make for sure
Sure.
that we identify the projects that are out of our regular budget, that those are not 2A dollars.
Good.
So that there's not any confusion.
Excellent. Adam, I also wanted to thank you for item I, for the railroad crossings, particularly for those on Myrtle, Essie, and Douglas. Oh, those needed to be done so badly, and I was really glad to hear that that's going to be taking place soon. So thank you. Are there any other questions? As far as the agenda, it has been recommended that we pull number 9 from the agenda on domestic pets because we have some council members absent and there's several questions on there, and perhaps we need to have some further discussion from City Council to delve into it. So if that's the wish of council, when you make the motion, we'll need to remove number 9, as well as make note that B is amended, and also E now is amended as well. Is there anyone who would like to make a motion?
I'll try. Before I do that, I understood that the process that we were going to work on, particularly with ordinances, is that those ordinances would go to general government and get all the details worked out prior to coming to council. And it doesn't seem like that happened with this particular ordinance.
Yeah, one of our issues, and we can certainly delay this to accommodate that. I think it has some benefit, but we're proposing, cancellation of your June 20th meeting because of CML, also the July 4th meeting. So it really pushes us back into the latter part of July. If you'd like to wait, that would be our next scheduled opportunity to review this in that kind of a format. That's not a problem. Otherwise, we could just talk to the council members individually and try our best to bring you hopefully a comprehensive review of this at either the next meeting or the following one.
Personally,
your
I
pleasure.
don't think there's a rush
Yeah,
on it, so I'm personally okay with waiting till
we
then
could
to
do
go to
that.
general government.
So we can schedule this, I think it was July the 20th, but I'll double check.
I would also like to add, though, in the notes that were given to us concerning the domestic animals, that I felt like there was lacking some of the notes from when it did go before Planning Commission. I usually like to read a little bit about kind of the flavor of what happened in there, some of the discussion and questions that arose, so that when I ask, well, what about this, I can see that discussion was done on that and why they arrived to their decision, and also what the PC's vote was on the matter. I like to see that.
I concur.
Okay, I think we're ready for our
Okay,
motion.
that's right, I was going to do a motion. Madam Mayor and Council, I move that we approve the agenda with the removal of item 9 and the approval of the consent agenda with the, we modified B?
Mhm.
With the modification of item B.
And E.
What did we add?
Now it's $2.
And we had it,
Just E?
Item
B
E was
and E.
the amendment, and then there was a correction made to the contract, which is on the dais before you.
So item B would include the latest version with the contract, or with the additional verbiage related to documents. And then with item E, we would add the additional note that those are not $2A.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Roll call vote?
Councilmember DeRito.
Aye.
Councilmember Hammer.
Aye.
Councilmember Paquette.
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Turner.
Aye.
The motion carries.
We'll now move on to item number 10, a public hearing. We'll open the public hearing and have the clerk read it by title.
This would be ordinance number 14, series of 2018, entitled an ordinance rezoning certain real property within the city of Canyon City, Colorado, 924 and 928 Park Avenue and 921 Prescott, case number ZON 2018-002.
Call for staff report.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of council. This evening, we are here to consider a public hearing on a request to rezone the properties at 924 Park Avenue, 928 Park Avenue, and 921 Prescott Avenue from R3 high-density residential to R2 medium-density residential. The three subject properties comprise half a city block bounded by Park Avenue on the north, South 10th Street on the east, and Prescott Avenue on the south. The three parcels each contain one single-family residence. There are long-standing single-family residences here that appear to have been there for decades. All three parcels are also zoned R3, high-density residential. R3 is a zone district whose intent, as stated in section 17.12.090, is, quote, primarily for multifamily residential developments of 3 or more dwelling units per structure, including but not limited to townhomes, condominiums, and apartments. While R3 does permit single-family residential, it clearly has a broader focus than just single-family residential. The subject parcels are bordered on the north and south by existing single-family neighborhoods in an R2 zone district. Another existing single-family neighborhood in an R1A zone borders the subject parcels to the southeast. To the west, the parcels fronting South 9th Street have a C commercial zoning. The only R3 high-density residential zoning in this district is in an area of existing apartment complexes to the northeast of the subject properties. Currently, the three parcels that are the subject of this request have an R3 high-density residential zone district. The owners of all three parcels seek to change that designation to R2 medium-density residential, which is effectively a downzoning in land use intensity. In evaluating this request, staff finds that given the historic use of these three parcels as single-family residential since their annexation into Canyon City, and the lack of a clear reason for why an R3 zoning was placed on these properties, that the R3 zone may in fact be in error. Staff also notes that all three property owners have come forward to request a downzoning because they have no desire to redevelop these parcels for multifamily and would like to preserve and maintain their historic use as single-family residential. The R2 Medium Density Residential District is the predominant zoning designation for the residential areas to the east of South 9th Street, and this rezoning request would continue that pattern. Finally, the city's comprehensive plan recognizes this part of Canyon City as residential in character, but does not get specific as to actual recommended densities. Thus, a zone change to R2 is not going to materially change how the comprehensive plan regards these parcels. As of today, staff has received no phone calls or emails regarding this request. There have been no inquiries about what it entails and no opinions offered positively or negatively about the rezoning application. Staff is also aware that all three of the applicants own the parcels upon which comprise the residential half of this block. They seek a concurrent rezoning of all three parcels to the same zoning designation, and this designation is consistent with the existing zoning on the surrounding parcels. This is not seen, therefore, as spot zoning. Finally, all three lots conform to the minimum lot size for parcels in the R2 zone district, and all three parcels appear to meet minimum setback requirements for properties within an R2 zone. Now, it should be noted that Planning Commission, following a public hearing on this request, cited findings of fact concerning the proper notice and foundation for the request so as to confirm the city's jurisdiction to make a determination for this rezoning request. They did conduct the public hearing, and their vote was unanimous. Staff and the Planning Commission recommend that the City Council for the City of Canyon City approve the ordinance to change the zoning designation for 924 Park Avenue, 928 Park Avenue, and 921 Prescott Avenue to R2 Medium Density Residential. If approved this evening, this ordinance will be issued a 2018 series number, and I believe our city clerk has already done that, ordinance number 14 of series 2018, and return to council for a second reading on June 4th, 2018. That would conclude the staff presentation. As always, I'm happy to answer any questions council may have. We also have one of the applicants, in fact, the applicant who sort of organized the other two to participate in this rezoning request, Colette Lee, who lives at 928 Park Avenue, here to speak on this request if you'd like to hear from her.
Colette, would you like to address council? He does do a good job. Are there any comments or questions from council?
Yes.
Councilman Meisner.
I'm just concerned, why the request?
It all started with the code enforcer coming over and saying we couldn't have backyard chickens. And it was kind of a volatile situation. He calmed it down quite a bit. But I'm saying, why can't we have backyard chicken? We're almost on a half-acre of land. And originally, those were like little farms in Lincoln Park. And all he could say, well, you're zone R3. And when I found out what R3 was, you're not allowed to have chickens on R3 zoning. So that's the initial, that's what come up anyway, which I was upset. I came to City Hall, and he calmed everything down, so I really appreciated all the work he's done for us.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification and for the compliments to our city staff and being customer service oriented and helping calm down the situation. We appreciate that. Appreciate you being here today as well. Any other comments from council? All right, let's go ahead and close the public hearing. Need a motion from council.
Madam Mayor, I can make that motion.
Absolutely.
I move that the City Council for the City of Canyon City adopt ordinance number 14, series of 2018, an ordinance rezoning certain real property within the City of Canyon City, 924 and 928 Park Avenue and 921 Prescott to R2 medium density residential on first reading and schedule second reading for June 4th, 2018.
A second?
Second.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Dorito.
Aye.
Councilmember Hamrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez.
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Turner.
Aye.
The motion unanimously carries.
Thank you. We'll now move to item number 11, to authorize the city manager to sign an agreement with National Research Center to create, administer, analyze, and report results of the citizen survey on behalf of Canyon City. Continued from May 7th, 2018. This will be a second reading, and this too will also be revised from the first reading. Is there any discussion from city council members? Manager Tony, would you like to give any report on the
Sure. Since
survey?
May 7th, two significant issues. You refined some of the policy questions, and they're listed here on pages 4 and 5. You have 15 policy questions. We want to make sure this does represent the will of the council. And you certainly have the ability to revise or switch out any of these questions. As a result of the additional questions, we do have to pay an additional $2,150, but we think clearly in the scope of the importance that we place on the citizen survey as a very minor investment to hear the will and the voice of the community on some really critical current and future issues. Also, we want to highlight the fact that we didn't get it in time, but we would like to replace the contract signed by National Research Center, which is theirs, with a city-drafted contract, which they've agreed to, subject to just some language they want included, which would protect their proprietary interests in their data, the instruments they use, and the materials they use. And Corey can speak to that, but he's reviewed it with them and expressed no problems inserting that. So we'd have to, in good faith, ask you to accept the city's contract with the provision of adding this one amendment that we could then execute and put on record. But again, if you have any questions about the policy questions, this would be the time, because once you adopt these will become the official questions, and we'll get rolling on this survey. And we should get some preliminary results early part of August. That hopefully will help you in your budget process.
On these surveys, are they strictly a ink and mail in with the stamped physical response, or do the citizens that receive them have the ability to respond electronically?
They have that option of either filling them out physically or an online alternative. Once this particular instrument is completed, we then open up an opportunity for the entire community to fill out an online survey. Now, it's not scientific, it's not representative as this one is, but we get a lot of interest in that, and typically get as many, if not more, people participating in that than we did the official survey, and the results are eerily similar. But yeah, they do have the option. The vast majority of people, interesting enough, respond with the written survey format and not the online, but they have that option.
One comment I would like to make: our first year of putting out the citizen survey, it was the first one, we were pretty excited about it. And so we did a lot of promotion and pushing for our citizens to return it. Second year, I don't know if we promoted it as well, and we didn't get quite as many surveys back. So I'd just like to recommend that we really promote the citizen survey.
The first year we had a 39% response rate, which is close to the high mark for these national surveys. They average between 25% and 40% response rate. So the first year we had 39%, last year was 38%. We hope to be right in that same range, and we will promote it. We've used Carrie at the newspaper to help promote it, and we've also promoted it on radio and online.
Is there any other discussion from council?
I just want to write on your comment that I think one of the complications that we had last year is that we've got this survey, and then there's another individual organization in Canyon City that creates a very similar survey. And I think there were some people that didn't realize the two were different or were independent of each other. And if we could try to educate people to that fact, that there's the survey that the city does, and then there's another independent survey that citizens do, which They're welcome to do that. I wish they would call their survey something different.
True.
So that there wasn't that potential confusion between, because I think some people didn't do our survey because they did the other survey, thinking that it was the same survey, and it wasn't.
True. But again, we still had a very high response rate of 38%, so we're proud of that, but we'll continue to promote this. And as the public knows, the council takes the survey data very seriously, helps drive your strategic direction, your budget decisions, so I hope that we'll continue to get high levels of response.
Is there a motion from council?
Can I just ask one
sure.
question real quick? I know that we mail this survey to a certain number of people, and I just want to be clear.
Yeah.
Even those people who do not get their survey through the mail can go online to fill out the survey?
What we do is we have a two-part process. There's the official survey, which you're about to sanction. That goes to 1,600 homes.
Right.
And the majority of people do fill it out, or they fill it out online. Once that is completed, so we don't create confusion, we then promote and advertise the opportunity to do an online version for anyone in the city, which typically 700 to 800 people take advantage of, and we share that data with the council, just like we do the scientific data, and it's usually very similar in the responses.
So everyone who's a resident has the
Has the
opportunity?
opportunity, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Right, but we just have to make a distinction between the scientific
Yes,
part and the one that
versus
was
just the
open to
online.
the general public.
Sure.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, a motion from council? Meisner?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, Council, I move that we authorize the city manager to sign an agreement with National Research Center to create, administer, analyze, and report the results of the citizen survey on behalf of Canyon City.
And can you have the motion in the revised form? Because it's been revised since the first reading.
Do we have, this is second reading? No.
It's just a different version in your pack than
Right,
what was in
it's
your
just a different
packet.
version, it's not second reading.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? I would just like to have an explanation for my vote will be a negative. As you well know, I have concerns over questions 19 and 20. I think they're a distraction to the goals and purposes that we have in our business strategic plan for Canyon City, to muddy it with conversations over recreational marijuana, and appreciate Councilmember Jaquez's suggestions that if our citizens do indeed want recreational marijuana, they absolutely can petition to get it on the ballot, and that is their prerogative, and they have that right to do so. That's not in my interest to pursue that as a city council at this time.
Can I speak on this also? The one thing that bothers me with this one here, with 19 and 20, and I understand why some council members did what they did the last time. But to me, when we continue to push this, in my opinion, it gives the citizens the feeling that we want it. Not that we're looking for their input. And I've had a lot of people tell me this face to face. They say, well, we've done it twice, and now you're doing it again. Is that what council wants? And so I think we have to be very cautious of how we speak to the public with regards to this. Because it's not our job, it's our job to listen to them. But we got to be very careful when we say what we're going to say. And that's the impression. I just want to let you folks know. I'm not trying to change how you feel. But I want you to understand that a lot of people are getting the feeling that this council wants that to go through. And like I said before, I hate to see Canyon City become like Pueblo. And that was my hometown. It was my hometown. This is my hometown now. Read the Chieftain every day, because since they passed recreational marijuana, how many people still get picked up for illegal substance? And there's one other thing I'd like for you to understand and look at, and that's for the people out there in the audience. We talk about revenue. Nobody, I don't care where you look, nobody in the state of Colorado has produced any kind of revenue that has completely solved some of their problems that they're looking at. Schools are still in trouble. There aren't really any. You can't name me a recreational center that was built with marijuana money. There's some things that have come out of it. And we talk about that, the cost that we can get it and put to our deal. I want you to look at it this way when you fill that out. There's the possibility of somebody being injured and killed because of medical marijuana, okay? And look at the ones that are injured. The financial cost to those families to take care of somebody who's a paraplegic, somebody who can no longer use a limb. Think about that when you look at it. Is that little bit of tax money that we can generate from this recreational marijuana, if it goes through, is it worth the agony and discomfort to people like that? Thank you very much.
And just a comment on the revenue side and the questions that some citizens have. If we had recreational marijuana, couldn't it pay for X, Y, and Z? When 2A came to the ballot, we had a lot of folks on social media say if we had had recreational marijuana, then that would pay for all of our roads that we needed. We asked our finance director, Harry Patel, to look into communities that have recreational marijuana and what kind of money that they were earning, and so that we could have an idea of what kind of sales were and revenue was being generated. And from what we found at that time is that indeed there are a few communities that do make tons of money off of recreational marijuana, but a vast majority, a huge majority of those communities who have recreational marijuana, their revenue streams are I'd say rather insignificant and not really big pushers for huge revenue. So I just wanted to add that little tidbit in there. Is there any other discussion on the Meisner?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, just to communicate that I understand your compassion or relative to your position relative to marijuana, but based upon your position that citizens have previously stated that they didn't want marijuana, based on that position, I assume you also would not support item number 15 that says that we want a recreational center. That issue has been voted on by the citizens of Canyon City, and that item was denied. So I assume you would not be in favor of that item. And item number 18, in terms of the lodging tax, that particular item was also voted on by the citizens and declined. So I assume you're also not in support of item 18.
Actually, number 15, that did go before the voters before. It's been over 15 years, so some time has gone by since then.
Okay.
Just to, in response to this, I completely understand both Mr. Jaquez and Madam Mayor's Pro Tem's position. However, I don't feel like we should ever be afraid to ask a question in the community. I feel like the white elephant in the room that you don't discuss is always much more ominous than the ones that you do. There was a time in this country where prohibition made it illegal to have alcohol in this country, and it resulted in the people in this country still finding ways to have alcohol, and they found it in an unsafe manner. It produced more crime, it produced more injuries and more deaths because there was nobody making sure that it was safe for consumption, that it was safely moderated, that it was safely handled. And as a nation, we overturned that and we allowed drinking again. It's by no means cured the problems and the woes associated with DUIs, accidents from drinking. I don't think that you're ever going to 100% mitigate those problems, just like with marijuana. But once again, I don't think we should ever be afraid to ask a question. And in response to Mr. Jaquez, I agree that there's probably been some challenges for Pueblo, but there's a lot of geographic intersections of, the state Highway 50, the Interstate I-25, the cross-section that happens to intersect in Pueblo. There's a lot of other factors that play into some of Pueblo's crime rate. I don't think it would be fair to piggyback that all on the back and the shoulders of the recreational marijuana. I don't think that there's the numbers and the statistics to follow that.
And you know,
I just,
and we can debate this all day long, okay? The thing about it is this, okay? The regulations are there for the alcohol, and what has happened to them? They've continually come down and come down. They don't even have good regulations for marijuana for our police officers yet, to really look at it and enforce it, okay? So why create a problem, a worse problem than what we have?
So we do,
Well,
we do need to stay on topic, that the item in question here is whether we're going to approve or not approve the citizen survey.
Well, can I?
Yes.
I mean, I think we've all been given, hopefully, an opportunity to speak.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to make a couple comments. One, I listened to Councilman Jaquez's concern that because we put the question on the survey, that citizens will believe that we are in favor of recreational marijuana. And I want to make it clear that that's not my position and why I voted to put the question on the survey. You know, I'm a federal law enforcement officer. I don't use marijuana. I don't plan to use marijuana. But I was approached by several citizens who do want us to ask the question and who are in favor of it. So I'm with Councilman Dorito in feeling that it's never harmful to ask our citizens how they feel. And if we're afraid to ask the question because we have personal beliefs in how we think the result should turn out, I think that's not what we're here to do. We're not here to ignore or avoid asking tough questions. And I also want to address the issue about comparing us to Pueblo. I mean, when we were in Salida last week, we did ask the folks there what their experience has been with recreational marijuana. They adopted recreational marijuana as soon as it was legal in the state, and they really didn't voice any concerns over having adopted it. I don't know that they've seen a great financial benefit from it, but the folks that we talked to in city government there didn't seem to think that there were crime issues associated with their adoption of recreational marijuana. So, you know, if we're going to talk about personal experiences that cities have had, I think we have to consider all of them and not pick and choose those that meet or, you know, go with what we have personal opinions about.
Is there any other discussion?
Madam Mayor, I call the question.
Hamrick would like to make a comment, please. I think it was mentioned that everybody should have a say.
Thank you for that, Mayor Pro Tem. I just wanted to say that I voted against inclusion of the questions, and I felt that we did not, that side lost. The questions were included, and my vote this evening will be to approve, but I just wanted to say that I'm not in favor of marijuana myself, and I think that, but to honor the intent of the council, I'm going to vote yes.
Okay, let's call the question.
Councilmember Dorito.
aye.
Councilmember Hamrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez.
No.
Councilmember Meisner.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
No?
Councilmember Turner.
Aye.
The motion carries.
We will now move on to ordinance number 13, series of 2018, for second reading, entitled An Ordinance Repealing and Reenacting Chapter 8.16 of the Municipal Code pertaining to trash disposal. Is there any discussion from council on the second reading? Seeing none, I call for a motion. All right, Meisner, I guess it's you again.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem and Council, I move that we approve ordinance number 13, series of 2018 for second reading, entitled An Ordinance Repealing and Reenacting Chapter 8.16 of the Municipal Code pertaining to trash disposal.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Roll call vote.
Councilmember Dorito.
Aye.
Councilmember Hamrick.
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez.
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Turner.
Aye.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Now we're on number 13, consideration of tourism promotion and November 6th lodging tax measure. Can the clerk read by title?
Guess they don't want to hear from me.
Ordinance number 15, series of 2018 is first reading by title only, entitled, "An Ordinance of the City Council of the City of Canyon City, Colorado, referring a ballot issue to the registered electors of the City Council of the City of Canyon City, providing for 5% lodging tax to be imposed for the purpose of promoting and marketing tourism and tourism-related special events and activities in Canyon City and the Royal Gorge region."
Any comments or questions from council? Trita?
Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I would like to just point out that as a tourism lodging tax, I think it really should be stimulated in the message to the people that this is a tax that is very targeted to items that will not affect the average citizen of Canyon City. I have heard discussion of this already from a couple of people, mostly misinformation, where they feel like it's going to piggyback on lots of other things that will affect them. And I think it just needs to be a very clear message that this is a lodging tax. This is targeted towards the tourism industry in our community, to promote the tourism in our community. And it's not going to be any kind of tax that will affect the day-to-day citizen of Canyon City.
Just a second, Meiser. Tony, did you want to make any comments on the?
Just that, you know, this would replace the existing 2% tax that the lodging community pays in Canyon City, which is a county-wide tax. So if this were to pass on November the 6th, it would displace the existing county 2%. The county would still collect that in the unincorporated areas of the county, but this 5% would be exclusively collected by the city. What we're only recommending is that we increase the projected dollar amount from $400,000 to $450,000. It's probably on the liberal side, but we failed to include the proposed Holiday Inn Express. Will probably come online hopefully by summer of next year, so it would probably create at least 50 to 60,000 in additional revenue. So just out of abundance of caution, we thought we should lift the maximum amount that we can collect because of that new property. We think it's going to have a significant impact. Longer term, between lodging tax and sales tax, that property is projected, both by us and by them, it will generate about $200,000 a year. That's more sales tax than all of downtown, one hotel. That represents the importance of the tourism industry, not just hotels, but the rafting industry, the retail industry, because tourists don't just stay in hotels. They buy food, they buy gas, they recreate, whether it be the bridge, the train, or rafting, or our trails. They have an enormous impact on our local economy in creating jobs and also producing local taxes. In 2016, the last data we have, tourists contributed $2.5 million to local taxes within Fremont County. So the more tourists we have, hopefully the less taxes locals have to pay. So we strongly endorse this being put on the ballot with that amendment of the 450,000 ceiling.
Meisner?
I know we got this legal problem with how that ballot has to read.
Yeah.
But one of the problems that we're going to have, that we had before, is that some people are going to look at the 5% and add it to the 2%. And is there any way, Corey, I'm going to put this on you, that we could add a simple statement saying that the 5% would replace the 2% within the city limits?
Not in the ballot question.
That's not the answer I wanted.
But it's a good way to, again, reinforce what the city council's role is and what those folks that may be out there in favor of the ballot question should do. The city as an entity, upon passage of this ordinance, if it passes, can't expend city funds.
Right.
But you as individuals certainly can, and to the extent that there is misinformation about what happens to the county's lodging tax, it is by operation of law, the state statute that allows counties to impose lodging taxes specifically says that if a city imposes a lodging tax, then the county's lodging tax goes away by operation of law. So it is part of the education process of letting people know the impacts of this ballot question.
Can I ask a question based on that? When we're talking about information to the public, is there any way that we can, in a sense, stay within our boundaries in that, and then just put, little burps in the fact that, folks, this is strictly 5% for overall. It is not any additional money increase in the newspaper like that.
The city,
To promote it.
the city can do a factual pro-con statement, and that is certainly something it is specifically authorized to do. It just has to be sure that for example, the cons aren't drafted in such a way that they could be construed as pros.
Any other discussion from council? Let's go to Turner.
So I just want to clarify on that. So we could, through social media, put out information, and that wouldn't be considered expending funds to explain?
No, it would be if it is, pushing one position or the other. Now, if it is purely factual pro-con statements, then it can be done through social media.
Okay.
It can't expend money, the city can't expend money promoting one position or another related to the ballot question.
So then my follow-up question would be, I know we also are permitted some free radio time for council on Fridays to go and record radio spots about city issues. Is that something we could talk about in that spot?
Not in terms of promoting the question, no.
But we could
because-
do factual truth and myth type
Correct.
clarification.
And so the very difficult distinction is, I would say, going off script, if you will,
Right.
from the pro-con statements that have been drafted. Again, you as individuals, on your own time, can certainly take whatever position you want. It's just when you use city resources that it becomes restricted.
Yeah, and I guess my concern would be, I want the voters to have the truth when they go to the ballot box. So, and I know that as a city, we have a wider reach than us as individuals, so.
And we can certainly work with your staff on the pro-con statements, both in looking at them sort of from the smell test, if you will, to make sure the pros are pros and the cons are cons, but also to allow those statements to reach the issues you think are significant.
Okay, thank you.
Just for a point of information, there is a political action committee that's been organized representing all the major tourist destination locations, the bridge, the train, rafting, but also the retail community that has contributed funding to communicate that message, the message that you're concerned about. So I hope during the course of the summer, you'll see whether it's community organizational meetings to online to print to radio, you're going to see a lot of messaging addressing the concerns that you're raising.
Councilman Hamrick's turn.
Okay, I'll give it another try. So here's my try. It says, in the language that will be on the ballot, thereafter, through the adoption, about the fourth line down, through the adoption of a lodging tax at the rate of 5%. Can that be amended to say, through the adoption of a lodging tax at the rate of a total of 5%?
I would recommend against it because it deviates from the plain language of the Constitution, the Constitution. And so the language in the Constitution has very specific words about how a tax question is asked, and that's the risk, is to deviate from that. And we have roughly 25 years of litigation that says we need to stick pretty close to that language.
Okay.
So no.
Thank you.
Meisner.
Oh, I know. I would suggest, Tony, and any influence you have on that committee, do not use the phrase that a tax you don't pay. That did not work.
That message will not be used.
Thank you.
Is there any discussion from council? Can I call for a motion? And it needs to be amended, is that right? Because it has changed.
No, because this is,
We gave you the new version. I just wanted to make sure, because it was different than the one in your packet.
Okay, so we're good as is. All right, a motion, please?
okay.
Well, let's give
Go.
Dorito a chance here.
Yeah.
Well, I was trying to find in my little bookie here with the exact wording of what the motion needed to read.
Just read it out.
So, I make a motion that ordinance number 13, series of 2018 for first reading.
It's
Oh, 15, excuse me.
okay, you're
15,
doing
the
good.
series of 2018 for first reading by title only, entitled An Ordinance of the City of Canyon City, Colorado, referring a ballot issue to the registered electors of the City of Canyon City, providing for a 5% lodging tax to be imposed for the purpose of promoting, marketing, tourism, and tourism-related events and activities in the City of Canyon City and Royal Gorge region.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion on the motion? Roll call vote.
Councilmember Dorito,
Aye.
Councilmember Hamrick,
Aye.
Councilmember Jaquez,
Aye.
Councilmember Meisner,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith,
Aye,
Councilmember Turner.
Aye.
The motion carries.
thank you. We're now moving to number 14, recommendation to increase membership to the Royal Gorge Regional Tourism Council from 9 to 11 members, 1 additional seat to the outdoor recreation industry category, and 1 seat to the marketing experience and tourism industry category. Tony, do you want to make any comments?
Yes, when the council adopted the measure to create this council, wanted to ensure that it was a comprehensive reflection of the tourism industry. So we have, representatives from the lodging industry, single representatives from the bridge and the train. The outdoor industry is represented now by Dennis Weed, who represents the rafting industry, which is a very critical component to our tourism. But another critical outdoor activity are hiking and mountain biking trails, and we believe that there should be an expansion of the council to allow for a FAR representative. They're very interested in representing those outdoor assets and activities. We think they're vitally important. As some of the council members in their trip to Buena Vista and Salida found out, mountain biking, hiking are enormous attractors to those communities, just like they are with Fruit and Moab. And I think we have some world-class assets here. We just need to promote them, but having FAR at the table will be important. And the final spot, probably wouldn't recommend filling it until November, because if the election's successful, we'd probably like to take a member off the county's tourism council and put him on this one, because we would have one council really representing the region and all the critical industries within it.
Is there any discussion?
Why not? Well, I mean, if we're adding a seat specifically for FAR,
Yeah.
it seems like all the other seats were specifically had an organization named.
No, just, there's only 2 specific destination tourist industries that have earmarked seats, the train and the bridge. The outdoor industry, that could have been anyone from fly fishing to rafting to hiking. It just happens to be the appointment is Dennis Weed, who is clearly representing the rafting industry. And we thought, because of the outdoor industry importance in our tourism, an additional assigned seat for that type of activity should be made available. And FAR is the logical entity to represent hiking and mountain biking.
So the outdoor recreational industry would have 2 seats.
Yes, yes.
I'm less confused.
Yeah.
Any other comments from council?
I think the vagueness of that tourism industry category,
Well, it's supposed to be somewhat general. It's just a general requirement that you have a background in tourist promotion and marketing, so that, for example, we can put people on there that have a general background but don't necessarily represent a specific destination or industry type. And for example, Steve Caverman is one of your appointments. He falls into that slot, and he's a huge asset to the council. And he also happens to be on the county's tourism council, so having him on board is great, and we'd like to get someone similar to that, hopefully in November, from the existing county board.
Could it be skewed as a problem if it was somebody who was in the marketing industry that wants to promote marketing and could personally benefit from marketing?
Well, there's certainly conflict of interest that would prevent that, but I think, you know, if you've attended, and you're all welcome to attend, Dolly is currently your representative, but this group has really worked very closely in unison. They've put the interests of the community and had any of their industry interests, and I think that's also reflected in the Political Action Committee. They've all organized, and they're all putting funds towards to make sure this is passed in November. They see this as a very critical step to promoting this general community in the region. By comparison, right now, as a community and a county, we're only investing $200,000 annually. You know, Salida is $560,000, Durango's $1 million, Crested Butte and Gunnison together are $1.9 million. Even Alamosa is spending 3 times what we're spending. We're lagging far behind the competition, and as a result, did anyone receive this Sunday the Denver Post summer?
Yes.
That you paid for?
Did you notice for the second year in a row, there was not one mention of Canyon City or this region? Not one. That's devastating to us. That's a piece that goes to every subscriber of the Denver Post, and we're not even mentioned. I mean, there's a big spread there in Pagosa Springs I would love to have. And Crested Butte and Salida, we're not on the map. We're not on the radar screen, and hopefully this initiative in November will pass so we can be on that radar screen and produce jobs and tax resources to better the entire community.
Okay, Corey, can we please hear from you?
Yeah, well, I appreciate Tony's passion. I wanted to answer the question. The conflict of interest provisions under state law would apply to someone who was in the marketing group so that they could not benefit personally, or their business could not benefit. So that does apply.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. That's important to me.
I don't know that there's much difference of conflict than any of those other industries that are going to indirectly benefit from increased tourism.
Well, I can see that point, but I have gone to a couple of those tourism meetings, and there are some concerns for those who get money, particularly as an employee of, because there would be an employee of the Tourism Council to provide marketing for that Tourism Council. So it is a little bit different. And that can't happen.
That can't happen.
That can
No.
happen under state statute.
I just have one comment. It's a well-known engineering rule that the indecisiveness of a council goes up by the square of its members. And so we may at some point actually want to subtract members to make sure that they can stay. But if they're focused and can do their job.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's a valid concern. I mean, typically with 9 members, we typically get 7 to 8 attending on a regular basis. I think with 11, we'll get 9, 10. It's not going to make a significant difference. And the important thing is they're really working well in unison. So it's a very collaborative group.
Do you have further concerns about the size of the group, Councilmember Hammond?
I'd say calculations.
I don't, but in the field
Sure.
trip we took, they pointed out that they had some groups that ended up in indecision, and so
Can
we
I-
just need to.
Yeah.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
The position that you are kind of earmarking for a member of FAR, in the future, if we were to get another outdoor integrated
You can change
group,
it.
would that position that they're in be basically eligible? It's not earmarked specifically for FAR.
Correct.
Are you just stating that one
Outdoor
of their members
activities.
would be, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, I just
outdoor
want to
activities.
clarify
Yeah.
that.
That's a
So
good
you have
clarification.
flexibility in the future. Good
So
point.
if there was another entity that formed to promote that, they would be also eligible to have members eligible for that position.
Yeah, let's say
Okay.
for sake of discussion, we actually create a recreation center, and that becomes, you know, a real magnet for both locals and tourists. Maybe they need to have a seat at the table, and they would be an activity group that you might want to have represented. And just to clarify, I'm glad Corey mentioned it, so we'll be bringing back an ordinance that would codify any decision you make tonight on this matter.
Okay, any other comments from council? Okay, then let's have a motion.
I don't think we need a motion.
You don't need a motion?
I think this is one where we just go with a nod of the heads because we are going to bring back an ordinance that will have 2 readings.
Okay, so nod of the head, thumbs up, thumbs up. All right, looks good. Administrators report.
Given the time, I have none.
All right. Then I announce that that there's a joint session with the Planning Commission this Wednesday following the Vision Committee. And do we need to have a motion from council to adjourn?
The reason I put this on here is I thought it would be respectful to adjourn in memory of your former mayor. You don't have to.
I like that. Thank you for that consideration. Could I have a motion to adjourn council in honor?
Frank, would you like to?
Madam Mayor, I make that motion that we adjourn in honor of our former mayor, Bill Jackson.
Is there a second?
Second.
Meeting adjourned.